Eric, it's great to see you.
Dion, long time, man. How are you doing?
Really good, man. How about you?
Good, good. I appreciate you inviting us to come and kind of talk about what we're doing here. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, same. Well, I want to get out of the way to let you fully take the stage, but thanks so much for coming on, and I can't wait to learn about what you've been up to recently.
Heck yeah, awesome. Yeah, looking forward to sharing more about us. Um, cool. I guess I can kind of kick off with just a quick intro on who I am and what we've been up to as a company. I'm Eric Simons, the co-founder and CEO of StackBlitz. And I think Dion had actually mentioned some of the origins of what we've been doing at StackBlitz. And actually, before I go further, hi everyone. I think there's a chat that you can type into if you're watching. Hello, I'd love to know where everyone's punching in from. So feel free to you pop into the chat and give a greeting, etc. I started this company with my co-founder 5, 6, 7 years ago now. And really at StackBlitz, what we've been up to has been about allowing the web to be able to build for the web. If you think about every other major platform that's ever existed, whether it's Windows with Visual Studio and Mac with Xcode, every platform, the most powerful platforms always have a built-in capability to build applications themselves for that platform. And the web, until we came along, did not have this capability. And there's certain things like Wix or Squarespace or cloud IDEs like Cloud9 or Replit or whatever that let you kind of build the web, but they're not running an actual dev environment. They're not actually running an IDE where it's running an operating system inside of the browser tab itself. They're either running servers on a VM that you have to pay money to use, or they're just like a drag and drop builder. So it's again not actually leveraging your browser itself to run a full powerful dev environment. And that's really important because if you want to build amazing applications, you want to have the best tools possible, for actually creating sophisticated web applications, not just a static website or etc. And you want it to be accessible to everyone on the planet. You should be able to open up a browser tab and just be able to make something. And to date, if we can get my screen shared, I can kind of show you. To date, up until 60 days ago-ish, the primary interface to this technology we made called Web Container was an IDE. It was like a VS Code-based IDE. So if I go and just click into this little project here, you'll see it's like this IDE experience. And what's really cool, just to point out, is this is a full operating system here running inside of the browser. So it's not using a cloud VM or anything. It's actually doing this npm install, running the dev server, et cetera, entirely inside of the browser tab, right? So just like a Google Doc or Figma, I could send this link to you. You could open it up on your own device, et cetera, and be able to actually run this and edit this project live on your own device, right? Which is really cool. But when you kind of think about, it's actually rather complicated to use an IDE. You have to be rather technical to actually go and leverage this to actually build like a real application, right? And what's changed in the past couple of months here, really since the beginning of the summer, is AI models have gotten extremely good at writing high quality production grade code, to the degree where even folks that have never coded before or are somewhat technical can actually build full production grade applications. And so the whole bit with StackBlitz has always been about removing the need to set up a local environment and again, making it as easy to open a full dev environment in a browser tab as it is to open a Figma document or a Google Doc. And by merging kind of these latest frontier AI models in with the technology we made, we thought, this could be a pretty cool experience that we could actually build here that would be amazing for developers, would accelerate their workflows, but also for folks that are non-developers, could enable them to build production grade websites like they'd never been able to before. And so actually earlier this year, a little bit of inside baseball, we had the idea for Bolt, this product, I'll flip over to it. We had the idea for Bolt and, basically kind of the merger, if you think like Claude or ChatGPT plus, if they had access to an in-browser operating system, that's essentially the pitch of what Bolt is. We had this idea earlier this year, and we actually tried building it with some of the frontier models at the time, and they just weren't good enough to write accurate code that didn't have bugs or weren't hallucinating, et cetera. So we put this idea on the shelf, and then back, I think it was in May or June, we got a sneak peek at some of the latest stuff that's come out since then. And we're like, oh my God, it should actually be possible now to do. And the result has kind of exceeded all expectations we had of what you could do with this sort of tool. But the response here has been insane. I mean, just in the first 4 weeks, we've been online, I think as of today, we've been online 7 weeks, but just in the first 4 weeks, we went from 0 to 4 million of ARR on this product. And we have hundreds of thousands of people per week now using this thing. And so, and we're like a 20-person team. So we've been just trying to keep the lights on over here and match the demand. So I guess like enough talking, maybe it's just best to like show a demo of how this thing works. So maybe we start with something simple. So like, something that this thing should absolutely be able to do. And now that I said that, watch, where the demo gods are going to make this thing break, knock on wood that they don't, but, make a beautiful to-do app. And I'm going to hit enter. And at this point, this kind of looks like ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. This is where it doesn't. So we actually, on the right here, we actually have a full IDE environment. So you can actually see it's punching out the files that we're going to need. It's writing all the code that's going to be needed to actually build this application. We have, again, the terminal that's running entirely in the browser here. It's going and installing these dependencies. It's going and finishing up making our to-do app. And within, a handful of seconds here, we should see a working to-do app if everything goes well. But this is kind of the power of this integrated experience, because normally when you're using Claude or ChatGPT, if they're punching out good code, you have to like copy and paste it to something locally. Often local IDEs are, they're rather complicated. And so you have to be kind of telling it specifically, hey, add this file, add this thing. Whereas with this, our AI agent can really think holistically about, hey, let's build this application from 0 to actually something that works. And as you can see, we've got a working to-do app. Add one, wow. And how about, do live video stream for right now, and I'll check that. Actually, I should uncheck that. We're not done with this video stream. But anyways, pretty cool idea. And this is, this is just the start. Like we have more work to do on this application. I can say, use like a purple theme. I can just kind of tell it to do anything, and it'll go ahead and it'll flip back over to the IDE, go and make these changes for us. Again, I have no idea how this thing works. I didn't write a single line of code in this application. It's going and building this thing for me. I'm giving feedback to it, like I'm at, as if I was a PM, or a manager. And this agent is going and just building something that looks good and actually really, really functions well. So we'll give it a second to tie up. And kind of, this is really the vision of what we have for Bolt. And I think, some of the most exciting stuff in the AI agent space is the consolidation of all the different steps you normally have to do to get an idea into your fingertips and get a result from the computer, right? And this dramatically cuts down the amount of time to get something real. I mean, we have, look at this. This is a pretty good looking to-do app, right? Of course, so we've gone from idea to having a working app. But if I want to use this somewhere, right? If I want to, buy a domain and get this on production, how do I do that? Well, we actually have a built-in integration up here. If I can go ahead and zoom in, all you have to do is just click this deploy button. And we automatically, you don't have to sign in to Netlify. We have this integration with Netlify where we do a production build in your browser. Again, we're running an operating system here, so we can just do the build here. We'll deploy that site live. We'll get the link back, and we can view that link. And if we want to keep it, we can attach it to our Netlify account by clicking this URL. But if we go ahead and click over here, you can see this is a live production URL of this application, right? And so say hello world, not hello world, hello world. Refresh and it stays there. So this is obviously a very simple example, right? But you can kind of imagine how much of a game changer this is in so many senses. Like some of the incredible use cases we've seen is we have startups that are building landing pages with this, and even building out we've had our first startups launch off of this just in the past 7 weeks. There's a full CRM with a backend that was built. Tons of amazing full stack production software that's been built where these folks have not even written one line of code, and they've just been prompting the AI agent to actually make these things. And so, anyways, it's been an incredible 7 weeks of just seeing folks build stuff with Bolt.new. I thought one thing that'd be kind of fun to show the power of this, is this clearly we're moving to a world now where anyone can have an idea and spawn software, whether they have a business idea or if they just have something that they themselves need for their own use case. One of the things that I made previously, I did an Ironman last month, so I created a calculator using this of like my training, the amount of running and biking and swimming I was doing, et cetera, like this kind of deeply personal software to help me kind of achieve my goals. I thought kind of a fun one would be while we had this thing make a presentation for this talk. So I'm actually I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste in the session title and abstract that we made here. And I'm going to say make a presentation for AI Native DevCon. We'll be showing Bolt.new. Here is the info for it. And so that's, there's entire classes of just productivity tools like slides and docs and, et cetera. Well, I have actually not tested this prompt, by the way, so we're all going to find out live here how well this works. But this can actually just create productivity software for you from the ground up that's tailored to your needs. And so it's going to go ahead and create a slide deck here. Wow, it's actually extremely fast. Let's go ahead and see this thing spin up. I think the possibilities are endless, and that's what we've been seeing, from the folks that have been using Bolt. So I'm like, wow, this is incredible. Let's go ahead and full screen this. Let's see what the presentation is. Look at that, pretty good. Even pulls in a background image. Let's go ahead and click to the next slide. The vision. Deployment should be instant. This is all true. This is all true. I couldn't have made this presentation better myself. Absolutely. AI should be a natural extension of your workflow. Idea deployment in seconds. No setup required. Everyone should be able to use this on this planet. Here's a diagram of how this works to help us all understand this. So what is Bolt.new? Anyways, you get the idea. I'm speechless, right? I mean, this is crazy. And the incredible thing is I can go in here and I can tell the AI, hey, change slide 3 to say da da da, and it'll just do it, right? It's like having not just a pair programmer next to you, but it's like having an extension of yourself to just go and not just like build web apps, landing pages, but build things for you in your everyday life, right? Anyways, I'll go ahead and minimize this again, but kind of unbelievable the sort of applications that you can build with this thing. So I think that's kind of the high level of like what you can do with Bolt.new. And of course, for folks that are like, to go back to like the to-do application, the future that we are seeing here and that we envision is not that developers are going away. Like with every technology that's ever existed, there's always been this kind of question and concern of, okay, well, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to people that ride horses when cars come out? It's like the world adapts and changes, and people are able to leverage the new technology to really go and build the future in a way that just wouldn't have been possible before. And it's a better future. And I really truly believe that that's going to be the case here, where you have developers that are leveraging these AI tools to augment their workflows, to augment their ability to go and build amazing applications. So it's actually more important than ever to have sophisticated, really brilliant engineers in the world that are able to not spend their time on things that are monotonous and mundane, but really on extremely creative, difficult challenges to solve, right? And so to that, and one of the really cool things is because of our origins as an IDE company, any Bolt project actually seamlessly ties in with the StackBlitz IDE. So I can actually click to open this project in StackBlitz. So I can actually do code editing here, like in a very direct way. Of course, you can actually edit, by the way, in Bolt, you can actually go in and edit files directly in here as well. But if you want to have like the full IDE experience, like push to Git, et cetera, You get all of that in the StackBlitz IDE that's powered by VS Code and whatnot. And when you hit save, you can actually just click back to reopen this back in Bolt, so you can keep prompting with this sort of experience. And so I think for us, it's the way that we where this is going, and just for us and kind of the industry in general, is people that are developers are only going to get more powerful, and they're going to get to be able to build even more amazing things that wouldn't have been possible for them to do before, strictly from even just how much time it would take, the cognitive complexity of managing all of these things. But along with that, this rising tide is raising all boats, and to a degree that people that are not even technical, that have never coded before, can actually be a part of this. They can actually be a part of kind of rewriting the world's software order, so to speak, and build things for them, themselves, their families, other folks, in a way that is so much simpler than a lot of the things that previously existed. If you think of what are your current options today for someone who's non-technical to build a website, you're looking at, there's a lot of website builders out there like Wix or Squarespace. And what we're seeing folks that are opting for this experience over that, which was initially a little surprising, but it actually makes sense. Like these website builder tools are actually rather complicated to use. You have to learn how to drag and drop these things and choose a template and this and this and this and that. And then you have to type in all the words and stuff yourself. You can come here and say, I want a website for my wedding. It's on this date, etc. Hit enter, boom, you have something that's live, in production, right? So, anyways, that's the short, of what we're up to with Bolt.new and kind of where we see things going. And I'm seeing a lot of questions in the comments so far. So I figure maybe we take a little time. We can answer some questions. I'm also happy to do some more demos if folks want to see stuff. But I thought maybe there's a good pause point and kind of hammer through some of these.
That sounds great. Let's do it. There's definitely a lot of questions, which is awesome, and just shows how excited people are about these things. And so Guy actually asked, how big an application do you think can be built this way, kind of today and tomorrow? And I'm curious what you've seen already, and as you think about evolving things, where it can go.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we have seen. I mentioned there's someone who actually built an entire CRM platform with this, and had the CRM platform has a built-in AI chatbot, and like it's very sophisticated. It's got like a calendar, which has been kind of mind blowing because I suppose we knew that was possible, but we didn't expect this to happen so quickly, and I think today that a lot of power users are building stuff to that degree. Every day. I think that for our team, what we are actually doing is figuring out, okay, how do we make it even easier to build stuff of that size and scale within the product, and really make it smooth? Because to kind of get there, there's you have to like really start learning more and more about the tool. And so I think there's probably a drop-off rate of folks that want to build something that sophisticated, but there's actually really no meaningful technical limitation around it. It's really more kind of user experience stuff and some under the stuff plumbing. But I mean, there's what you would kind of deem as, hey, this is a real startup with a real production application. There's dozens of those that have come out already. And so I think as you fast forward to 1, 2, 3, 4 months, I would not be surprised to see a meaningful shift in like startups building their first MVPs to continuing to build it going forward. I Bolt or tools like Bolt I think will become a pretty common way that's happening. So
got it. That's great. Min's asking, this looks amazing. It looks like it's easy to check requirement specs visually met. What about the code itself?
Yeah, so great question. So today, regarding the code itself, like one of the nice things is this is a full dev environment. So you can actually say, write a test suite for this that does these things, et cetera. And you can actually hook into those test suites and make sure it's actually adhering to them, et cetera. Regarding like memory leaks and that sort of thing, I think this is kind of the long tail of this where, there's like this 80-20 that we're hitting now or going to be hitting, in the next month or two or something like that. Then there's the last mile of this, which is, okay, and then as this thing is existing in a production environment, how are we helping you debug errors that come up with memory leaks or this or that? And even just, and so one of the things we've been talking with the Chrome DevTools folks about is just as folks are building with Bolt, because it's all running in the browser, Chrome DevTools has access to all the information you would ever want or need about memory leaks happening. And so that's something that theoretically we could kind of exfiltrate from Chrome DevTools and feed into our agent to actually process and catch these sorts of things. And so a lot of the game is just really around how do you instrument this in a high quality way where there's signal and not just a ton of noise or something. So that's kind of the long tail stuff we have to work on, over the coming months, which will matter especially for stuff that's going to be production grade versus I'm building a landing page or a marketing website or something like that.
Got it. So you showed deployment. This question was asked before. You showed that. Are there other aspects of the software lifecycle that you're thinking that you want to add things into the product to help with?
Totally. Yeah, I think deployment stuff, obviously probably one of the biggest ones. We're going to have a Git integration. I think that was maybe one of the other comments. Today you can push to Git from StackBlitz, but not from within Bolt. That's like probably one of the top requested features that's now on the docket for us. So all of your typical lifecycle hooks that happen, with your CI, et cetera, this will just kind of plug directly into those things. I think one of the cool areas that you can imagine is with a tool like this, often you may have other stakeholders, whether it's designers or, business-oriented folks or whatever have you, that are part of the SDLC process for, hey, what are we shipping, or how does this look, or how does it function, getting feedback, et cetera. And there's something pretty interesting, I think, around what if they can just get access to this and kind of prompt it instead of like, hey, can you make the button blue? It's like, tell it, here's the link, stuff like that. I think it's kind of like a thing where you can comment on stuff. I mean, this just takes to a different level, right? So I think stuff like that, I think is super interesting as far as saying this link to someone, having them be able to kind of come into a collaborative workspace where they're not just commenting to give some other person an instruction. They can actually just tell the LLM to do something, and developer can then look at that and go, yep, okay, looks good to me. Click, so.
That's awesome. So here's someone who's a user, been using it for a few weeks, and they're coming from this. I imagine that this is a common thing too, being a back-end dev. They're just like, now I've got superpowers. I don't have to ask my front-end team to do things yet. I think they're wondering about just different integrations with like OpenAI API specs to be able to just like hand the front end these different specs of the back end, or GraphQL or whatever it is. If you envision any kind of future, tooling there that could enable it easy to plug these together.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think as far as the API spec, I think that 100% that is the move. The person who put that comment up here, that is totally the way you should do it. We actually next week we're announcing it's released. We just haven't announced it. We have a file. We have a prompt file that's in, like, if you go to .bolt/prompt in the file system, you can edit that, and anything in there will be, every time you open up a chat with the thing, that will be hydrated into the conversation as context that it's aware of. So I would recommend taking your API spec, popping into there. I mean, try and shorten the spec as much as possible, so you're not you're spending less money per message with the context, but that way it'll be 100% aware of how your API is set up. And it can go and build the endpoints that it needs to, or not build the endpoints, sorry, build the code to access your endpoints, et cetera. But that's one of the beautiful things about this. It is if you have a custom component system, you have a custom design system, you have custom APIs, like, you can just feed it in and it'll just adapt to it,
Yeah, that's awesome. So this is a good question around, like, you talk about kind of source control of the code itself, but being able to do things like database migrations and other kind of steps that you want to kind of migrate and update that are maybe outside of just the prompting the system. I want the button to go from blue to red. How would folks kind of think about those parts of evolving?
Totally. Yeah, and we're actually kind of getting this now because folks are using things like Firebase and Supabase for the backends. And so right now what it does is it'll actually give you instructions on how to run migrations. I think in the case of Supabase, it'll give you like something you can even copy paste and then over into Supabase and et cetera. What we're actually doing is we're working on just direct integrations with both of those, and likely other ones in the future where Bolt is just aware of the database, the current structure, et cetera. And so it can observe that, and then we have direct access from within Bolt itself to run migrations or make snapshots or this or that. And so I think that's where this is gonna. I think it's gonna be a huge unlock. I mean, if you can come here and say, I guess like kind of the key vision for this is like you can come here and say, hey, I have an idea for an app. It's like, oh, do you have a domain yet? No. Okay, cool. We've got that. Let's go build the app. Let's set up the database. Okay, we need to migrate the database. No problem. Let's go ahead and do da 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 da. So yeah, I think every part of that we want to. To the degree that it's possible, go in and make that completely slippery magic automatic,
Yeah, got it. I'm going to sneak one in here actually. So you've had this like crazy amount of usage, pop up. And so you're able to see all of these amazing things that people have been building. Have you been able to kind of use that data and usage to be able to kind of get quality data that you can then use to get a feedback loop going to make Bolt.new better itself?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's yes. There's more. We're kind of bringing on our first analytics engineer / just growth your GTM engineer sort of person to help us even dig into this more. We've gotten a ton of qualitative feedback. Our team's been talking to the users a ton, and so the past 7 weeks we've been kind of running the gauntlet, just ingesting feedback, fixing things, improving the product, etc. And so a lot of what I've kind of spoken to has been kind of our learnings from that end of things. And so I guess, the short answer is, I think the main things we're focused on now, there's been a lot of just kind of P0 stuff, just fixing obvious bugs and limitations, and making it, optimizing token usage so people can get more messages per dollar, that sort of thing. The next things we're looking at are really around okay, now if I'm building things that are going to be really production grade, those workflows, like making those really, really, really amazing to use. And that's like integrations with these kind of backend as a service providers, Git, even things around collaboration, et cetera. I think that's going to be, that's going to be a lot of our focus, going forward here for the coming, couple of months at least.
Makes sense. LLMs are changing all the time, lots of different ones. They're always upgrading and making changes. How do you think about that? How do you kind of evaluate what's going on in this messy world?
It's a good question, because what we found is that the eval benchmarks for CodeGen are they may have been useful a year ago as stuff was needed to improve to a certain point, but they are not representative of building real world apps and not hallucinating on actual libraries that are out there and that sort of thing. There are not, as far as I know, there's really not any good benchmarks. What's kind of funny is we open source the funny / inspiring and cool is that we open source the core components of Bolt. So you can kind of like take Bolt and web containers and fork it and build your own, and people have been adding different models on. And so Bolt has kind of become, for those of you that were were in PC gaming in like the 2000s, like where it's like, does it run Crysis? That was kind of the gold standard of like, how good is your GPU or whatever, right? And people are now saying, okay, but this new model came out, like, can it run Bolt? How well does it run Bolt? So people will take it down, they put it into Bolt, they give it a prompt, and they go, this thing, not that good. So it's kind of interesting. Like this Bolt's one of the first real world production AI apps that's where the kind of core of it's open source. You can actually just test it against stuff. And usually within a prompt or two, you'll find out. you'll find out how good these things actually are at a real world test versus just some sort of specific benchmark,
Yeah, it's kind of amazing when I opened up some of the evals and saw that like so many of them are focused on like, here's one line of code missing. Does the LLM putting the right, which isn't what developers actually do all day.
No.
Right? It's not like we're in this almost perfect state. All I have to do is add this one line of code. So I feel like most of the evals are maybe not, to your point, that's why it doesn't map to the real world very well. It's like they're actually measuring this very weird state of, I've got a jigsaw puzzle, I'm just missing one piece, which isn't obviously
totally.
Yeah,
I think it's very, it's probably extremely useful as the ramp over the past couple of years to measure CodeGen. But we've hit a tipping point, and that's like, again, like the why Bolt has been able to exist right now is that AI CodeGen has hit a point where you can write real production grade code, and they're as far as what we've seen, there's not yet a good way to quantify that. The best way is actually to qualify it by plugging it into a production grade app like Bolt and go, okay, is this giving me back an app that like looks good and actually functions and knows the correct libraries to use, et cetera. And so as I suspect, like, we're pretty excited about this stuff that's been happening in the open source side because we're seeing there's a lot of people that have been contributing to our open source stuff and different forks and whatever have you. And it seems like it could play an important role here in helping folks that are making models and fine-tuning models to give them a common target to say, okay, how do we make it better, work it better in this sort of real world context, you know?
Got it. Speaking of open source, Gaipo asked about the separation of the open source side and the commercial side, and someone else asked about kind of the pricing in general.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so for how we think about the commercial side, we had no idea that the uptake that was going to happen on Bolt. So we put both out at the same time. We're like, hey, we have two businesses at StackBlitz, that we kind of did a dual bet, similar to like Anthropic or OpenAI, where they have their chat product and then their API product. StackBlitz has the same thing with Bolt and with selling our web container service as an API, where you can get in-browser compute, but also all the networking to NPM and getting whatever built into it. And so for the open source side, like we're stoked to see folks picking this up because I mean we are kind of taking our learnings and backporting them. Soon we're going to be kind of backporting a lot of the stuff that we've been working on the past couple of weeks. But the open source world is doing a ton of innovation as well, and so they're trying out different models, they're trying out different approaches, and so it's I think it's just net great for everyone in this space to just see all the different models being used and how to actually leverage them the best, et cetera. And so on the Bolt side of things, our pricing is we have different tiers basically of how much usage you want in a given month. So I think it starts at $20 and goes all the way up to $200 if you're using this thing like every single day to like punch out websites for clients or whatever have you. But so that's kind of the split of our stuff. And the open source side is really important. I think it's we invest a lot in open source generally at StackBlitz, even before Bolt. And so having the open source world picking this thing up and pushing it to different and new limits is great for us and great for everyone else too.
Yeah. And you talked a little bit about this when I asked about using the data side of it, but I've also been curious about, you've got all of these prompts and chats and different things kind of coming in. Are you actually using LLMs to be able to do the analysis? Like, how do you, with so much coming in at you at this point, how do you even learn what people are using it for and the like?
Totally. Yeah. I think for us, what we've been very focused on is the people that are seeing the most success with the product, really spending time with them and them showing us their prompts and stuff and their general approach of how are you getting this to really punch out what you want. Because there's a lot of people that will come to it and they kind of they have this wrong impression that this is like the genie from Aladdin, where you can kind of say, I want this, and then boom, it's there, right? And which is understandable because there's a lot of hype around AI stuff. So people are like, oh, like, okay, I can just type anything, and then they're very disappointed when it doesn't work. And so what strikes me as really important is the folks that are power users seeing great success and are really masterfully controlling these LLMs to punch out amazing software, kind of almost like reverse engineering what's going on in that person's head and like, how do we actually build that into the product? Like, how are we how can we be prompting the user for certain types of information, kind of catch when they're trying to do something that is not maybe going to yield them the best result? It's like it's very, and this is like the frontier of research on how do you build a technical product for non-technical folks, right? And so anyways, I think we're spending a lot of time understanding how the most successful folks are using it and trying to like actually build some of that knowledge into the product itself so that it just makes it better for everyone and there's a really slippery path for everyone.
That's awesome. Well, Eric, thank you so much. Like you mentioned, you've been involved in open source a lot with all of the work that you've done with Vite and sponsoring them and the web containers work that you've done. So even from the beginning of your company, like you've always really invested in open source even before Bolt, and it's just really great to see how this has just kind of like burst onto the scene. And just one of the things I love about programming is the fun aspect of it, and this is something that's fun to use. I enjoy using it. It's awesome to see that. So thanks so much for joining us and showing this to everyone. And we'll be, for folks who have more questions, we'll be watching for that on the Discord. But thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Awesome. All right. Have a good one.
See you soon.